Greetings and welcome to another edition of the Jacksonville Buzz. I am your host, Adrienne Houghton, and joining me is my co-host, Wally Conway. And in the studio today is Peter Mitlas from Atlantic Marine Surveys. Welcome, Peter.
Thank you. It's great to be here today to join you and talk about my company.
It's a pleasure to have you. Tell us, what do you do? What is Atlantic Marine Surveys?
All right, Atlantic Marine Surveys, and this is why I was excited to come on with Wally here, especially being an old home inspector. Really, marine surveying is recreational surveying. It's home inspections for your boats. So what I do, I own the company. I'm a veteran. I've taken over this company here in the last year. And my whole job is to go out there and inspect recreational vessels and make sure they're in compliance with, whether it's federal standards or there's also American Boat and Yacht Council standards too. Those are a lot of things that have been learned over time, that those issues that can either sink boats, can injure people, or worse. We look for those standards, especially for somebody that's getting ready to purchase a vessel. We want to make sure that the prospective buyer knows what he or she is getting into in a boat. Or we're also the eyes of the insurance industry and the banking industry for insuring boats or financing boats. They rely on the marine inspectors to go out there and spend time on the vessels to look them over there. And we, at the end, after we've reviewed the boat, and Wally will appreciate this, from the old aviator days, is it's like a pre-flight of an aircraft, only more in depth, and we come out afterwards and we produce a report that we hand over our client. And that report can be typically between 30 to 50 pages, depending on the size vessel.
I had absolutely no idea that there were boat inspections done the way that the home inspections prior to buying a boat. Is it a necessity or it's an advantage?
It's an advantage. There is the necessity part in those regulations that, especially the insurance company, if something's out of a federal regulation on that recreational vessel, they're going to want it fixed. But it is just like, I think Wally probably spent time for years educating home buyers or even homeowners. We just used a home inspector to look at our 1-year warranty claim for our new home construction. But convincing the owners to get your boats inspected, especially around here on the First Coast, that's one of the things we're working on, is really educating the public there, saying, hey, before you go, even if it's a small craft at 20 feet or so, 25 feet, center console, before you spend $55,000, and these vessels keep getting more expensive, why don't you go pay an inspector or marine surveyor anywhere between
it's the right thing to do. Boat owner, I've had 14 boats over the last 50 years from graduating from the Naval Academy, which you did too. The interesting piece of that, Peter, I retired 7 years before you graduated. Isn't that amazing? Holy smoly.
You would never know.
I got all that energy. So I'm a monster fan of boat surveys. I've had 5 of them over the years. And as the boats get larger and more expensive, if there's a loan on the boat, they will require a marine survey. And as the boats get larger and older, the insurer will require a marine survey. So it's kind of easy in that category. But those in-betweens is really the sweet spot where people need to understand. When you spend a fortune to buy a boat, and a fortune could be $5,000, it could be $50,000, $500,000, $5 million, you're investing a lot of money, and you're doing that for the sole purpose to have fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you don't have fun when there's surprises on the boat. And boat surprises are never good. They are always expensive. Some wise guy once said boat stands for break out another 1,000.
I hear it all the time.
Are you serious?
Yes, and the way you avoid that is by having the marine surveyor to invest that small amount of money to avoid surprise. Sometimes it may be a negotiating tool. Sometimes it's a to-do list. But if you want boating, especially for our first-time boater friends, you want that first experience to be great. Because if we're married and you finally gave me permission to buy a boat, and the next thing I know, we're floating with no motor
in the
running,
middle of St. John's.
or we're sinking. I'm going to lose my boat and my wife all at the same time. The way to avoid that, to get with Peter. Get
so going into those purchases, identifying those things that the buyer knows what he or she is getting into, like, if this is not fixed, you're going to have to bring some money to fix this. But also getting in those areas, one of the key tools, and we see with any inspection, is just simply a flashlight and eyes getting below decks and bilges, those areas where the recreational boater does not spend time.
Yeah.
I mean, they're out enjoying the boat above decks, hosting, cruising around. They're never digging into bilges or engine compartments, looking around and seeing what the problems are down there.
Of course.
And it's pretty interesting at times too, when even with the offgoing owner, when they're out there for the survey and I'm pointing out items or issues on the boat, and they never realized those were ongoing, and they've owned the boat for years too.
Right.
So that's the things we're trying to look for, and as Wally's mentioned, get somebody prepared to say, hey, what are you getting into? Just like if you're buying your home or knowing what's your home, what do you have in your boat?
Well, I hope this interview has sparked somebody to get in contact with you, Peter. Thank you for coming in.
Atlantic Marine Surveys, yes.
And talking to us about it. It's valuable information.
Thank you.
And don't forget, if you'd like to know any more information about Atlantic Marine Surveys and get a nice boat survey done, then you can contact dailynewsnetwork.com.